Greetings, Carl.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing quite well today because for those of us who or for those of you who are not just listening to this on audio but watching this on don't cover it up, Carl. We're watching this on YouTube. Carl has a new microphone and it has what I can only describe as a Kitces blue glow. I mean, it's not a whole blue couch,
This is
but it
terrible.
is an amazing blue microphone. Was this for us? Was this
Now, listen,
special for me?
I don't
I'm so
know if I should.
flattered.
I
Truly.
look, I got a new mic stand. This is the same mic. It's just that this won't fit the other way. And when I turned it this way and saw that blue glow, I was like, oh no, I got to deal with this whole situation with Michael. So I,
So
I,
what I'm
I
interpreting is that you were shopping for a mic, and somewhere deep down in your psyche now, when you see the version that's blue, you just gravitate to it. You can't even help yourself. It's subconscious.
this is actually true. I was hoping that everybody who sees me on camera will see this beautiful blue glow and think of you.
Oh, it's not for me. It's just that I appreciate now that you were shopping for microphones online and you naturally picked the blue one.
This is right.
It's amazing.
Which is an amazingly challenging entree into our conversation. But
Okay.
when you are faced with
Bring us
so
in.
many choices, so many choices. I've been thinking a lot about this. Like it's a related problem, but decision fatigue. And I ran across this phrase this last week.
Decision fatigue. It's like my brain's tired. I've made too many decisions today that
Yeah, yeah. And I ran across this phrase this week that I was really interested in, which was change fatigue, you know,
okay.
and
Well, I feel
how,
like decision fatigue is I don't want to make any more decisions. Change fatigue is just like, will the whole freaking world stop changing so fast and chill out for a moment so I can catch up?
yeah, yeah. I don't, it's interesting because, we're always anybody with an investment background is fond of saying, we don't want to say this time is different. We're always sort of weary of that idea. Um, And so it may not matter whether the world is changing or more volatile. It all that really matters is that it absolutely feels that way. Like that's what really matters.
So, so when you talk about change fatigue, I just is there a context to this? I mean, just is this an investment markets fatigue? Is this a AI
Mm.
and tech is changing the world fatigue? Is this
Mm.
politics and the dynamics of change in politics fatigue? Like all of it? I mean, like I don't know if there's a
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I want to talk about this because I think that one thing that's become clear to me, and I'm getting asked a lot about this lately out at sort of FPA chapter meetings and other big speaking engagements. It like the world feels like it's moving so fast. Things are changing so fast.
Mhm.
There's it's in your face every day. Like things that used
Yep.
to feel stable feel unstable.
Hmm.
Work. And so every
Yep.
sometimes we get caught up in the specific examples. Like AI is a really good example of like but I think it's part of a broader picture, and that broader picture is change. And I want to make sort of like I don't think we need to spend our time arguing about whether this is true or not. I think it'd be fun to just maybe like hold it as true and then talk about what we do. What I think is happening is that there was a period of time, sort of post-war,
Hmm.
that maybe my grandfather and I want to absolutely recognize up front that it was a select group of people, but for a select group of people, there was this really predictable path of progress. We've all heard stories. Sometimes we even loosely call it an American dream, and I don't want to get
Yeah.
too caught up in the
All right,
landmines
go
around that.
to Go to college, get the job,
That's
buy the
right.
house, start the family,
That's
raise
right.
the kids to go to college, repeat the cycle.
That's right. And for a period of time, however long that was. I mean, I know people that actually worked. Like
Yep.
they went to college when they got out of their first job was enough to afford their starter home. They stayed in that home for a very, very long time. My neighbor, we talked about him
Yep.
before. We talked about my neighbor Homer. They're in that home for a very long time, had a pension, retired. Well, that's not reality anymore.
Right.
Whether it was reality in the first place, let's just set that aside for a minute. But
I would
but
say there are some debates out there of was it really
ever.
more stable during the civil rights era and all the turmoil are we remembering fondly? But
Yeah, for sure. And I hear all of that. I'm simply saying that it seems to cause a lot of turmoil to want to get back to something that's either A was never there in the first place or B is not coming back, either way you
Mhm.
look at it, right? So sometimes sitting around longing for like, gosh, when are things going to be just stable again? So that's point number one on the
Okay.
way to our discussion. Point number two is I heard Seth Godin on Mel Robbins' podcast, and he said something. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, if you're tired of all the change, I have bad news for you. Right now is as stable as it's ever going to be. Essentially, like
Well,
this
that's
change
kind of
is.
a downer, Carl.
I know, but it's also very interesting because change leads to massive creative opportunities. So, and it may have been more like,
Well, so that's it's an interesting point even to say that because I don't know, I think certainly where my head didn't go, I'll dare say a lot of people listening as well, like when you said this, what was it like that this may be the
something like
most
it's this is about
stable.
as stable. This is the most stable it's going to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this is the most stable part of change that it's going to be. I don't think anybody I know who heard that was like, "Oh, awesome! So creativity boom coming." Like,
Well, I don't know what that says about me, but I do see that as the I feel the same way. Like I just want to get in my bed and pull the covers over my head some days because you just can't even engage with the world without being confronted with something that used to feel solid feeling a little bit less solid at the very least. Like it just feels unmooring to walk through the world right now. And the flip side to that is that idea of like, wow, there's going to be some opportunities to do some things that could be different, could make a massive impact, could make some change. But here's what I really want to talk about. If the world is if we can just hold all these things as assumptions for a minute, if the world is indeed a little more uncertain, and I'm not even sure. I think I mean, the wisdom traditions and like Pema Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart, like there have been people saying, impermanence being a core tenet of Buddhism, right? People have been pointing to this idea for a very long time. Maybe we're just getting a dose of reality, but if this is reality, where you're going to have things change a lot, it's what it demands a different type of posture from a
okay,
leadership perspective. Like
in
like
terms of what we're what we're doing and leading our firms, in terms of what we're doing with clients, and
so I would
any
think
any
of
all of the above.
I think of it as like if I were to sketch this would be a little small circle that would say, you, me, like personal leadership, and then I would be thinking like firm of any size, and then I'd be thinking of clients, and then I'd be thinking of community and maybe world. Like
Okay,
thinking using the term leadership really
layers of the onion.
Yeah, using the term
Yeah.
leadership really broadly, I think what this time is asking of us is rather than control, precision, predictable planning, it's a different posture that's much closer to the ability to tolerate ambiguity, like live in complexity, be okay
I
with
don't like
uncertainty.
tolerating ambiguity, Carl.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, to be honest, very few of us do. Right? Like that's why certainty is so easy to sell,
Yeah.
right? right? Because everybody wants to buy it. It's just impossible to deliver. So I'm just sort of curious about the tools,
Okay.
like if somebody were to say to you, how do I get better at that? How do I get better at creating a container for a client and being honest about like, I mean, what do you tell a client who's asking about their 26-year-old daughter who just landed a job as an analyst at one of the largest accounting firms and is worried about their future? In the sense of like, is
Well,
she going to be replaced by AI?
if she wants to sign tax returns, we have a lot of clients we can't find anyone to refer to. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. What
come
what
on
do we
over.
what do you say to a child who your client who's trying to decide if their child should got accepted to a really fantastic uh 4-year Ivy League institution, but it's going to cost them 250,000
Hmm.
in debt. Like, how do we plan in those sorts of environments? And are those tools, because I don't think they're different tools. Sorry, I don't think that changes the need for precision and planning and calculators and spreadsheets. I just think it
Yeah,
adds a
yeah.
layer. It adds a layer to it to be able to tolerate the ambiguity of it all and to not rush in and solve problems too fast. Like to allow people to be seen and heard when they're feeling nervous and worried. So that's kind of what I wanted to set up, a little conversation about that.
I mean, I mean, I'll admit it's challenging to me. I like solving problems.
Mm. Hmm.
I can't solve your problem, but I can sit here with you in it while we agree that it sucks that things are changing so quickly is challenging to me as a financial advisor. I get it. I don't even disagree. I'm just
Yeah.
okay, you're making me a little bit squirmy.
Yeah. That was my main goal,
Oh,
was to get
I
you
know
to
it
use the
off.
word squirmy.
Squirmy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me give you another little like thread. Michael Bungay Stainer, who's like I think really great coach and has written some for the coaching habit and the advice trap. He was on the Society of Advice monthly call a while ago, and he said, if you can imagine, right, to a couple hundred of the best financial planners in the world, he said, this is a direct quote, your advice almost always sucks. And then he waited.
On a call to the society full of advisors.
The Society of Advice.
Uh-huh.
Your advice almost always sucks. And they waited a beat or two, and then he said, not because it was wrong, but because it was too early.
So what do you mean by too early? What does he mean by too early?
He calls it the advice monster, right? The moment somebody in a client meeting, the moment a client brings up something like, I don't know, we could think of lots of examples, but the moment the client brings up something that you could help them with, out jumps the advice monster because we want to solve that problem.
Well, now you're just talking about my marital dynamics with my spouse,
Yeah, this
who
works
would
really well with spouses and
who
kids
would like to
too.
share her problems and challenges, and I want to solve them, and she wants me to listen. So yes, okay. Now this resonates.
Okay, good. We got there. Now you're feeling extra squirmy.
Hmm.
But we all know that with clients too, the presenting problem often isn't the problem,
Yep.
right? And so that's maybe an easier entry.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I like I know that feels that feels easier or that feels different. I mean, my evolution on the planning end has very much been this journey from clients tell me the problems and the goals and I do the analysis and come back with the recommendations to now. I mean, I sometimes joke, but I I was say I assume every client is wrong when they tell me their goals. Uh
Yeah.
I never believe the first thing that comes out of their mouth. I never
Yeah.
believe it. There's always something else, something deeper, something they haven't articulated. I
Yeah.
said I want to retire to this place, and in reality, it's because we used to summer there when I was a kid, and I really just want to get back to my roots. And
Yeah.
I want to retire as soon as I can to play golf. And it's like you don't actually want to golf 7 days a week. You just really hate your current job and want to get out of it,
Yeah.
right? Like there's something else going on, and just if I can ask more questions before, I guess you frame it, before the advice monster comes out, I can get to a better reflection of what the actual issue is that they really want to solve.
Hmm.
And then we can get better recommendations or fill anything else. I can run a more awesomer spreadsheet because now I got to the real heart of the issue or the inputs or whatever the thing was. That to me feels very different than, well, I guess there are two versions. Either life is changing so fast, it's all changing, and this is like what you said earlier. This is the slowest it's ever going to change, and I'm already feeling change fatigued as is. So that to me starts giving the gut impulse of like, well, throw my hands up in the air and say, what the heck am I supposed to do? How the heck are we supposed to plan for this? Right? That maybe this is a little harsh, but like that makes the planning feel hopeless. Whereas
Mm.
the presenting problem isn't always the real problem. Careful, you just don't pull out the advice monster too quickly. Now at least we're still on the puzzle, the mystery, the exploration of like what really is going on and how can I help my client solve it.
Let's go back to makes the planning feel hopeless because that's a really interesting because that response like throw the plan for those of you just listening, Michael made the action of throwing the plan in the air and sort of feeling hopeless.
In my
Um,
head, all the pieces of paper are like
yeah,
floating down.
all over the
One and
place
one,
for
they're
sure.
like floating down. When you
For
play with
sure.
like a really big stack up in the air and they're
For
floating
sure.
down.
Well, but here like let's see if we can find some scenarios where the two of those
Yeah, like
things
what do I do? Like what do I
combine.
do with this?
Yeah, let's find a scenario where the two of those things combine because that feeling that you're having, I like it resonates deeply with me too. And what some of the kind of the complexity literature would refer to that as is this this deep desire and need for um, certainty can often show up in actions that premature, the language was really cool, the premature collapsing of complexity into a simple narrative, right? Like just get me out of the middle of this. I don't like this nuance, edge case, craziness. Never
I
mind.
I
And
can deal with the complexity. I mean, going back to where you started, it's the change. It's the change fatigue. It's the
which I would
what
just
if you
submit in
can't
this.
plan for anything because it's all changing too fast that by the time you ever make a plan, it's moving out from underneath your feet.
Yeah, and I would just say that I think that's a result of because we live in a complex adaptive system, and so we would
Okay.
just say that it's complexity. But let's try and make this more. I want to try and it is going to be clumsy, but I want to try and find a scenario. So let's pretend like I'm trying to make a decision about whether in my the kids are out of the house. I'm a client asking for a friend. The kids are out of the house, hypothetically speaking, the kids are out of the house, and I may want to go back to school.
Hmm.
And where I want to go back to school is not where I live.
Okay.
So maybe it's in, maybe in maybe it's in London, maybe it's in Boston, who knows? And that may or may not require us selling our home to go do that. So it's a really big decision, but it's 2 or 3 years away, and I'm not really sure if I want to do it. And but it's got practical implications, like selling the house. So there's a
Right.
little bit of what you pointed to, unclarity about goals, which is called life, right? We're exploring making a big decision. So often you see a lot of this complexity show up, sort of a peak in complexity when you've got the world's changing a lot, but now I got to make a decision, and that would be one example of like, I just don't know if should we sell our house? Should we not sell our house? The market's really high where we live. I mean, housing has done really well. Is it going to go down? Are energy prices and the terrible winter we've had in a location going to change values?
Hmm.
Like, oh no, we were thinking about selling our house in 2 or 3 years. Should we sell our house now? Right. So there's like, I'm coming to you with that, this messy interface between economics, finance, historical averages, complexity, news, and my
But
own life.
but is that what's giving you change fatigue?
Well, part of it is that, and I'm not saying I have change fatigue, although I feel it exactly
Yeah.
like everybody else who's asking me about it. Part
What?
of it is, it used to just feel so stable. Like we'll just sell our house 3 months before we move, or we'll just keep our house because we can come back to it. But are we ever going to be able to afford a house in the town that we live in 2 years after if we want to move back?
Okay.
Because housing prices have changed. So how would if you were the
Well,
planner?
then hold
Yeah,
on to the house and don't sell it and go rent it for 2 years and then you can come back if you want to.
yeah, yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah,
there is an aspect of right. I mean, I guess what I think this like what do we do as humans when we're dealing with unmanageable amounts of change? Like we try to hold on to stable points
yep, yep. Smart.
or slow it down or find something we can anchor to.
Yeah, yeah. I love that because that from the change work is really interesting. And the same thing like backcountry skiing. If I get to a place where the terrain feels scary, I want to flee to simplicity, like a flight to simple. Find a simple, get out
Mhm.
from complex terrain and find a place that's
Yeah,
simple.
yeah.
And so I think that's a
Find the thing that's simpler, find the thing that's safe, find the thing that's stable.
yeah,
Right? It's
break the
it's
decisions down into smaller steps. Like, well, let's spend the next couple of months figuring out, do you want to go to school? So how do you help clients make decisions, or how do you advise a client when they're asking questions about their 22, 24, 25-year-old kids going to school, thinking about graduate school, thinking about first homes, and it's not like it was. When I bought my first home, 30 years ago, we could afford it because we rented the basement. Now there's no chance any of my kids could afford that same house.
Mhm.
So how do we help people make decisions in an environment where things feel like they are actually different? Do you know what I mean? Like housing prices are actually different.
Well, yes, but for better or worse, that still feels like solvable to me, right?
Mm, mm,
When I grew up, the formula was you went to college and got the job uh and bought the starter home and then did the journey. And now the version is you go to trade school, you move in with your parents for a period of years while you save money, then you rent for a period of time and try to build a little bit more savings. And housing just is not a thing that normally gets done in your 20s in this day and age and generation, right? Like there's a difference to me between the world changed, let's understand how it works in the current environment and how to plan for it. I don't like part of the current environment and I wish it was different. That's a whole other conversation. But like
mm, mm,
there is a series of rule sets that we can try to navigate to. It just happens to be different than how it worked in the past.
mm, mm,
And just the piece I keep coming back to because it's where you started, and I think it's really powerful. And I still don't know if we fully scratched it, which is just tired.
Yeah.
of the amount of change stuff going
Do
on
you
right
are let
now
me ask
and
you,
living
are
in
you
this
noticing
constant
that?
state of uncertainty.
And you're noticing that.
I run a media platform in the age of AI, working with an industry where a whole bunch of people say our whole industry is going to be replaced by AI. I don't actually believe that's the case. I've formed my view on it,
Yeah.
as it were. But I mean, to me, like that's an element of the change fatigue we're all living with, right?
Yeah.
Even though I feel pretty good about
Yeah.
our ability to sustain as financial advisors in the AI era, it's a little tiring to have to say it every freaking day over and over again, and then watching the next new thing that's come along, the next new thing that's coming along, and having people say, "Well, but now it's really changing." Like, well, no, it's really not. But like, "Oh, now it's really changing." Like, no, it's really not. But
Is there any piece of you, okay, let's just, is there any part of you in that repetition you just did, which is really great? Like now it's really changed. Now it's, I remember in 2008, 2009, after a meeting in the conference room with Dan and Barbara, where I assured I had to be overconfident that the best course of action was to stay the course.
yep,
And I remember, and this almost sounds cute and quaint now, but if we can all just go back there and
yeah,
remember in the moment, I remember the feel of the conference room door when I shut it, thinking to myself for the first time in my entire career, oh
yeah,
my gosh, I hope I'm right.
yeah.
Is there any part of you that recognizes that even after all you've done, there's still a pile of uncertainty there about the media company and our profession. There's a pile of
Yeah.
uncertainty there. Like I
Always and forever, right? I mean,
okay, okay,
you can't
okay,
literally extinguish the uncertainty.
okay, great.
Yeah.
So how do that uncertainty? I just wanted to get to that spot. That uncertainty, how do you when it shows up where you're like, conference room door, gosh, I hope I'm right. How do you deal with it?
The my I'm trying to think practically. My I was like, coping with it. That
That's
feels like
fine.
a very negative word. My my coping with it is sort of twofold. For all the ways that we talk about like the pace of change and how quickly the world is changing, it really only changes so fast
Hmm.
in terms of how quickly things really move, right? I mean, it's some version of the Bill Gates, like, we overestimate change in 2 years and underestimate change in 10 years because it really can happen in a lot of fascinating ways that it compounds. Like 10 years is actually a lot of time to adapt and adjust. Like maybe if I ran a giant monolith publicly traded corporation where it takes 10 years to turn it 2 inches, like I really need a clear view of 10 years from now because if I'm not already steering into the curve now, I'm already going to be dead. But like we run smaller nimble businesses, like I can change quite a bit over a couple of years if the business really needs to,
Hmm.
whether it's the advisory
That
firm
that's one thing you do is
or
you hold like, hey, we're pretty nimble.
we're pretty nimble, and like the change doesn't actually happen that fast. It feels back fast.
Do those words feel hard to say right now?
No,
Because I mean, like it feels like I'm asking myself the question, like,
no,
is that actually right now, is that actually true? Because
uh
change is happening faster than I've ever seen it happen.
uh
But still not that fast, is what you're saying.
well, I mean, I'll pick on our business because it's the one I live in, right? Like,
Sure. Sure. When you
at
narrow it down.
strong advisory firms have 95+% retention rates. A lot of us gets like 97 or 98. So if the entire world is going to change and my entire value proposition is going to be invalidated, it will take 30 years for my average clients to get around to leaving me.
Right, right.
Which means if you have the most amazing, unbelievable new AI enabled thing, 97% of my clients won't even notice. They don't care. They're not looking. I serve them well. They're happy. Now, my growth start might slow down if I'm not competitive in the marketplace as a business.
Yeah.
It's going to show up in the growth first. My growth will get a
Yeah.
little slower or harder, but like my business doesn't clap. Like we don't run a
Yeah.
business
Okay.
that lives
That's
in like a technology world where, WhatsApp
that's
appears
yeah,
and in 6 months, 50% of all text messaging moves to WhatsApp. Like
totally
just our
totally get it.
business has a certain relationship friction, which
Yeah.
means
We'll
we
do
actually
let's
have a remarkable amount of time to steer this.
yeah, that's fine. Let's not now do software. And all I mean by
Well, but
that
I
is like
but I but I don't live but that's part of the
I
point.
know,
Like,
I know.
but
I
I
but
don't
this
live
this
software.
discussion, I know, but I actually think that was important. But let's move beyond like I'm not let's not talk about our I didn't really mean for this to be a discussion about how our businesses are going to be disrupted. I meant more of like what type of leadership is it requiring from you with your clients in the world? You're a human. Your daughter is in a CS program at Stanford, and and 50% of the software engineers got laid off. You're like how are we what sort of tools are becoming more important? And the reason I wanted to ask the question of you, like, so for you, it sounds like when you think about the complexity, disruption, change, it's one thing that you can go to real quickly is like, okay, my own business in our this quote unquote industry slash profession, you don't believe it's changing that fast.
Why? Believe is a loaded word. Like I see it's not changing that
Okay,
fast.
okay, okay.
Uh uh but but that what that means, like, okay, so then I can look at the incremental places where it will show up to tell me that it is changing.
Okay. Cool. Wait. That's really important. So now we had the crunchy bit binoculars a couple episodes ago.
Hmm.
Now we've got the disconfirming evidence binoculars out. Like we can
Hmm.
sort of, things are pretty good inside the industry. I do
Yeah.
want to move to like our interface with the other part of the world
Hmm.
clients. But inside the industry, now we can be looking, we can sort of just be on the not paranoid, but on the attentive lookout for places where things are changing.
Yeah. Well, I look, I mean,
Sure.
we're 3 years into AI was supposed to cause mass layoffs and eliminate 50% of jobs. And that's not how it's playing out
In our industry.
in most industries.
Yeah.
I mean, ironically, it may turn out that the only industry that's getting most materially disrupted, aside from maybe the transcriptionists, is the frickin' developers who may have made the thing, and it turns out the only industry it's really nuking is themselves. Go figure, because LLMs are good at language, so the transcriptionists and translationists folks have gotten hit pretty hard. And it turns out one of the other careers that was very dominant by an esoteric language that you had to learn with specialized knowledge was coding language.
Mhm.
Oops. Uh, but you know, when you look across the rest of the industries, I mean, even industries we're talking about, there are layoffs, which a lot of people are even debating about whether it's really AI layoffs or whether it's economic layoffs that are getting blamed on AI. But
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
you want to go down the road that it's AI, we're talking about, a few, 3% here and 5% there and 10% there. And granted, economy wide, 5 and 10% unemployment rates would actually still be a very material, sizable number. But we've done worse than that with good old fashioned recessions,
Right.
done the normal hard way, not with technology
Yeah,
displacement.
don't. Okay. I'm totally following. And I don't want to turn this into an AI
Yeah,
discussion. Because remember, like AI is just one of the places I think we're all feeling, whether it's happening or
yeah,
not. Because like you live in an area where we could now have a discussion about the political landscape changing.
yeah.
And that has had a material impact on jobs
Yes.
among a certain population of people. And again, not a discussion about whether that's
Mhm.
good or bad or whether it's just purely like change. Go back to change fatigue. Like how do you let's move out of our business real quick and as we wrap up, have sort of a discussion about, okay, great. I'm an advisor. I believe, Michael, I feel pretty confident in my business. Looks great. I'm not too worried about AI. I don't see AI as a threat. I actually think AI is not a threat, it's a reminder. It's a reminder of our deep value, which we've talked a bit about that.
Okay.
But okay, great. I'm on the front lines of answering the phone, looking people in the eyes in meetings who are feeling tired and
Yeah.
unmoored and uncertain. What do you do there?
What do you do there?
Nice. Nice. Well played. This is my claim. My argument is that that's requiring a different type of leadership. And that's the ability to I can't always give you an answer that's as clean as it. I can't tell you whether your daughter's going to have a job when she gets out of CS school. I don't know. So let's now decide what the most probable or likely path is by having a goal and a plan, whether that's 3, 5, 10, or 30 years. It didn't eliminate the need for a plan.
Mhm.
Then let's break it down to simplest component places, like we talked about. Let's get to as simple as we can make it, and let's talk about next steps. And so because I've had this conversation rather, I want to use the word very carefully, but like explosive conversation. I want to use the word violent, but violent in an emotional sense where people are like, wait, how come I'm not going to be able to afford a house? What do you mean I'm going to graduate? I'm graduating with $300,000 in debt. Everybody told me that was a good idea. And the ability to now sit in that space and say, yeah, yeah, okay, I hear you. Now let's make a plan. Your plans have been no, like I've been following plans. Like, how do we help people who are feeling so unmoored? And I think we have to make room for absorbing that with empathy.
Yeah, I
Gosh,
mean
I hear you.
the fact that the playbook is changing in real time is horrific for a lot of people that we're following a playbook that was supposed to work a certain way and now suddenly it doesn't.
Per exactly. And I think that ability is something we haven't talked a lot about in our industry because we're used to being, sort of map makers or really like almost navigators on a map that's been pretty
Mhm.
it feels like it's been
Well,
pretty stable.
the conversation you're describing still feels like a navigating conversation.
I agree. It's just
Yes.
turbulent water.
Okay.
Yeah, and to me there is a skill and I think we got a taste of it during, the spike during COVID. And I think it hasn't really slowed down since,
Mhm.
which is sometimes as somebody whose job it is to give people mission critical advice in the face when you don't have all the answers,
Mhm.
right? Like you don't know and you still have to help them decide. Well, that points to a sense of like emotional resilience, the ability to tolerate ambiguity. The advice monster can't jump out as early as it's always used to be able to jump out, right? Like I have to be able to sit like and I think there was this great line I read in a research paper I was reading that said the best leaders were not the ones with all the answers. They were the ones that created the best conversations
Okay.
and sort of allowed for collective interpretation of what was going on. And I thought of like that collective interpretation idea in a client meeting is so beautiful, right? Like it's not necessarily about me having all the answers. It's your journey, you're the hero, and the world's getting crazy, and I got great spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Let's now create a container for that collective interpretation to be really, really valuable for you.
And I'm just tired.
And guess what? I think we need to make more room for that. That's what I've heard at all the FPA chapters is like, and I'm just tired. Well, guess what? We need to be having conversation around like, what does it mean? Take care of yourself. Like, is there bed early? Is there something about a diet? Like, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. Like, to me, the ultimate skill in the ability to be present for people amid change is general resilience. Not event
Okay.
specific resilience, but general resilience. The ability to be tired, rest and recover and show up and do it again. And we saw that in COVID.
Hmm.
So many, all of us wanted to
Right.
hide. We all wanted to hide because we were human. This is the thing that's so fascinating about this industry or this profession is we're humans too,
Right.
dealing with the same uncertainty, sometimes even a
Mhm.
spike in the uncertainty because
Right.
our revenue might be related to the uncertainty
Right.
or often is related to the uncertainty.
Yeah,
So
it
we
usually is.
so in moments when everybody's depending on us,
Hmm.
we got our own stuff to deal with.
Yep.
And I think we have to be better about talking about that. So that maybe that's the whole point we were trying to get to. What's the answer? And I'm super hesitant to uh, offer answers, but I have found that my 8 to 12 hours a week outside with no headphones and no phone
Hmm.
might be the single most important thing I'm doing in terms of my ability to continue to do the work. That sounds weird, but whatever it is for you, your walk around the park, your digital Sabbath,
Yeah.
you're turning the phone off, your time with your family, your the warm bath twice a week. Like whatever it is for you, please understand that's not a reward for doing the work. It's a prerequisite for continuing to do it.
To find your periods of recovery.
Yeah, like or else we all know what sort of happens, right? You end
Yep.
up a broken human moving to New Zealand. Speaking
On
for a
that
friend.
on that wonderful tourism note. Thank you, Carl.
Cheers, Michael. Super fun. Thanks for tolerating the ambiguity of that conversation.
Thank you.